So it was April 1st of 2005, I think, when the first one came out.
Yeah, it seems forever.
The first Sin City. And I remember after we saw it, I was with my brother, and we just drove around and talked about it for like 3 hours. Because we hadn't seen anything like it before. And we knew Rodriguez wanted to do a trilogy. And if you had gone back in April, I still would have been 14. So if you would have gone back and told my 14-year-old self that I wouldn't see Sin City 2 until I was 23, I don't know what I would have done.
You'd have went insane back then.
And that it really wouldn't be that big a deal when it came out. Because the first one was like, I mean, not like huge, like box office wise, if I remember correctly, but everybody was going insane for it regardless.
Yeah, it brought out the crowds.
And this just kind of snuck into theaters without anybody really knowing or caring. When we were, we literally just got out of If I Say. I don't know if you heard him or not, but when we were on our way down, the hallway. Sin City 2 is in Theater 1. It's right there. And this guy walks by with his girlfriend. I think they were probably going to The Expendables.
Probably.
And the dude looks up and goes, I had no idea Sin City 2 was out.
Yeah, I did hear that guy. Yeah, because the promotion has been next to nothing.
Because it was, obviously it's been in production forever, and it was supposed to come out October of last year.
Yep.
Like, that was a really set in stone date, and then we were like 2 months away from it, and they were like, we're another year.
There was that rumor they were going to release 3 before 2.
I think that was just IMDb fucking up, but, regardless, it is here now.
Finally.
Now, a problem people have been talking about is, it's probably too late. The first one was way too long ago. We had The Spirit in between.
Oh, God.
Which really kind of dampened the awesomeness of this, because it took the awesomeness of this and made it that fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, The Spirit was terrible.
But this one came, and it was in 3D, which, obviously, when we make these plans, I always tell you, if we can do it in 2D, let's try.
Yeah, I understand that.
But our only option was 3D, so I'm sitting here waiting for it to start, not knowing if the style's going to be played out and what the 3D's going to do to it. And thankfully, I was really, really relieved when it started, because it was kind of, it starts, and I was pleased with how it looked.
Yeah.
In general. And the 3D was really, really good and really crystal clear. And so I was thinking, well, okay, the look is good, now let's, see about the rest of it. Because the early response isn't a very good one, and it's still kind of continuing to not be a very good response. Well, we start off immediately with Marv. And my first thought was, that's weird. Is Marv just going to be the prologue? Is Marv going to be the Josh Hartnett of this movie? But this isn't exactly in the same... The structure of the stories isn't exactly the same as the first one.
No.
But we still have... We mainly have... I guess technically there's 4 stories, but the way they kind of blend together, it's basically only 2. We start off with the prologue with Marv, and then we go into this story where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is walking around one of the casinos, and he knows which slot machines are going to go off for him, and he's basically building up his money. He befriends a girl that's Julia Garner is her name, from that indie movie Electric Children that nobody saw. He basically recruits her to be his, lucky charm, and then he goes and he wins all this money, and he goes into the back room where we see a familiar face, which is Powers Booth's character of Senator Rourke from the first one. The only Rourke left standing, so we think. that's not really much of a twist. I can probably say that. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is the other son, with Nick Stahl being the other one in the other movie. And he's here to play cards with him and bet all the money that he just won. And Powers Booth's got like these towers and I think the chips are kind of supposed to look like a small city of sorts.
Yeah.
And when Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character beats him, Senator Rourke retaliates.
Yes.
And that goes into its own story. And then our second story involves Dwight, who they're going with the facial reconstruction story, and he's now Josh Brolin, without even trying to sound like Clive Owen. He is just Josh Brolin in full. It's like when he became Clive Owen, he went through the whole face-off surgery where they even gave him like the voice box. And we kind of think Dwight's story is going to be one thing, but we obviously know it's another. We start off with this thing with Ray Liotta and Juno Temple that goes nowhere. And then that eventually turns into bringing in Ava Lord, who is Ava Green, who is the title character. The woman in the movie that's the femme fatale that can basically make guys do anything. Like, she's basically like a Greek mythology siren of sorts.
Yeah.
And then there's that. And then there's the final story, more or less, that kind of ties in with the Joseph Gordon-Levitt story, because Senator Rourke is kind of the center of both of those stories, where Jessica Alba's character, Nancy, wants revenge on him because Hardigan's dead, but I don't really know how that relates to the Rourkes, but, I mean, well, obviously, I kind of see, but, I mean, for her to be really, really bloodthirsty strictly for Hardigan's revenge, I didn't quite grasp that, but,
yeah.
Because, you know, then again, at the end of the first one, I was never really sure why Hardigan killed himself, so...
he said he has his reasons.
Nancy puts it on the Rourkes, and since Senator Rourke's the last one standing, that's who she goes after. Even though he is the one that kept Hardigan in prison for all those years and stuff like that. Okay, I guess that's the reason. This movie has some problems, more so than the original, obviously, but this is still a really great time, and it's still a really over-the-top bloodbath that you're probably looking for when you go into it. You remember the scene in the first one when Marv takes Rutger Hauer's head and squeezes it until he kills him? We get to actually see, like, in the first one it cut to Marv and the blood just kind of splattered on his face. This one goes over the top enough to where we actually get to see Marv squeeze a guy's head. But it didn't really feel like it was trying to top the first one.
No.
It was just kind of doing its own thing, which is nice. But, at the same time, there were some times when it felt like it was, in a not so good way, it was hard to realize that the movies were, like, related. I mean, mainly in the cohesion. With the way... I really love the structure of the first one, because it's really clean-cut and simple. You have the Josh Hartnett story that bookends it, and then in between you have the Marv story, then the Dwight story, then the Hardigan story. And it's that simple. And here it keeps kind of going back and forth. Because they kind of set up Joseph Gordon-Levitt's story to be kind of a prologue, because it's the one that comes back later. But we already had the Marv prologue, so it felt like we were jumping around an awful lot. Because the Joseph Gordon-Levitt story kind of stopped and we went into Dwight, and my first thought was, well, that was abrupt, is he? But then I thought, he must be coming back later, which is weird, because should we not just get the story? But I suppose with the way the stories connect, you kind of, for storytelling reasons, have to mix them up the way they did, but I found it a little off-putting, just a little bit. Obviously, we have a giant cast list again. Not quite as gigantic or renowned as the last cast list, but they still picked it up pretty well. The people returning are Jessica Alba, who, I can't believe I'm saying this, you can tell the first one was 9 years ago. Jessica Alba's probably the best performance in the movie. As shocking as it is to say, she's actually really impressive. Doing the half really emotional, fragile thing, half going insane thing. And she surprisingly did both of them really well. I think if this was 9 years ago, people trying to buy that Jessica Alba could play a character that was legitimately going insane would be laughed at. But somewhere between that time, she kind of found acting ability in general, I guess. Rosario Dawson comes back and more or less does the same thing. She's playing the same character in the with all the other girls.
And they're all back too.
Not all of them.
Well, 2 of them are back. 3 of them are back, I believe.
Well, okay, and then we have like I said, we have returning characters. That's not to say we don't have returning actors.
Yeah,
wait, Bruce Willis. I was wondering what they were going to do with Hardigan, because everybody's response is, but Hardigan's dead, and then my response is, oh, Marv's in it too, so... But since the first one's timeline was already messed up, like when we see Marv at the end of the movie, when he's in Hardigan's story at the bar, I figured that's how Bruce Willis and Mickey Rourke ended up in this movie. That is the case for Marv, that's not the case for Hardigan. Hardigan is still dead the whole time. He's basically... At first I thought he was a legit ghost, but... it's just, he's Nancy's conscience now.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you can tell that you can immediately tell that he was playing post-mortem Hardigan, because he still, had the bullet holes in him. And was just walking around. So, I was a little disappointed, because I was kind of, excited that, Bruce Willis was back and that character was back, but, 2 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, that's being generous.
And he's just there, all he does is stand in the background and say, Nancy, don't. That's all they brought Hardigan back for. But I guess he's more useful in this than Expendables 3, so. Wonder how much Rodriguez paid him. So, did you get $1 million a day for that, Willis? And yeah, there are some returning characters where the actor does not return.
Yeah.
Like Brolin. Which obviously has a backstory. But the problem with that is, I could buy that. I was like, okay, the facial reconstruction story. Okay, he's Brolin now. Fine. But the problem is that we see the facial reconstruction. And what they do is, they do the thing where they wrap his head in bandages. He does the Twilight Zone thing. Or the Invisible Man thing, whatever you want to do. And then when he comes back, he's got the Clive Owen hair, and he's kind of got Clive Owen's jawline. They put makeup on him. And what I was thinking, I wanted it badly in my heart, but I figured if that was the case, we would have heard about it by now. What kind of reaction do you think it would have got if they had Brolin wrapped up in bandages, and then they had a big reveal at the end of the story where they pulled off the bandages and it was Clive Owen?
That would have been awesome.
So needless to say, I thought that would have been the perfect way to do it. And I don't believe there's any bad blood with Clive Owen. I'm sure if they had asked him, he would have come back.
I was getting ready to ask you if there was any heat or anything.
I don't think so at all.
As far as I know,
so I don't think Clive Owen has heat with anybody. I think he's a generally beloved person. I don't know why they couldn't just say, hey man, wouldn't it be awesome if they took the bandages off and it was you? Unless it was like, oh, we promised Brolin. But no, Brolin's great, like always.
Yes.
He really fits the character well. It's just, I was not a fan at all of the Clive Owen makeup. If they were gonna do that, it feels like the whole reason to do the facial reconstruction plot was to have a Clive Owen cameo.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have it in the movie, why not do that?
Maybe it was too late to change it after the cameo fell through.
Jamie Chung replaced Devin Aoki. I don't know what happened there, because
she's fallen off the face of the earth.
That possibly could be bad blood if I had to guess, because
I don't think it is.
Because I don't think she'd be busy.
No.
And Manute, Michael Clark Duncan's character, is now Dennis Haysbert.
He did a good job.
And when Dennis Haysbert showed up and had both his eyes, my first thought was, oh shit, we're about to find out what the fuck happened to that eye. And we do, of course. That didn't disappoint. And yeah, as soon as I saw Dennis Haysbert on the cast as that character, I was like, alright, that's a suiting replacement, I can buy that.
Yeah,
they kind of got the same voice, and, that character doesn't take a whole lot. He's just the muscle-bound, he runs the girls guy. I'm kind of glad they didn't try to replace Shelley. She's just not in it.
No.
And we have, is that it for returning characters? Now we have some new characters. I've been mentioning it, but I haven't really talked about it. I had some problems with Marv.
He's Wolverine in this movie. It's just that image in my mind.
Here's the problem. You go back, no, I don't know. Maybe you can, well, first off, the timeline was a little confusing. There's some things here that don't quite make sense to me. But, if he gets to make 3, maybe that'll be figured out, but... I was spending a lot of the way trying to figure out where the timelines were. I guess we're supposed to assume the very, very last thing that happens in this lineup is Marv's story from the first movie.
That makes sense.
I think. So, I was trying to figure out if something must have happened between what happens in this movie and Marv's story in the first one, because he didn't come off as quite the same character. The Marv in the first movie is like this loner who has no help, barely has any friends. His only friend is his, what was Carla Gugino's part? She was like his parole officer or something. That seemed to be his only friend in the world. I would never have guessed, watching the first movie, that apparently Marv is friends with everybody in this universe.
Yeah.
He helped out Dwight, he helped out Nancy, he helped out... who else? The stuff at the beginning. And basically, the first movie just had Marv tearing everybody apart.
Yeah.
Just causing bloodbaths wherever he went. Even though he does do that in this movie, Marv also is basically kind of the comedy relief in this movie. And I thought that was really weird.
I love his chauffeur's cap.
That he stole from Manute after he tore his eye out. So, yeah, I thought that was weird what they did to Marv in this movie, but, the character's still there, it's just, I didn't realize he was suddenly so friendly. I guess maybe the events in this movie made him the character he is in the first one. I don't know.
Possibly.
So now we have new characters. Starting with Eva Green, obviously, because she's like the main attraction now. She's not bad, and she looks really good. She, has no concept of clothes whatsoever. It's Eva Green. You can't complain.
She reminds me of a Bond villain.
She was already a Bond girl that could barely be trusted. The problem here is, and she's a really great actress too. I loved her in 300 earlier this year.
Yeah, definitely.
But here I don't think her performance lives up to the perfect casting choice that she was. There was something I felt like that was missing, and she didn't quite go to the place, have me at the places where I think this character was supposed to take us, I think. So, but she's still fine. She's not bad or anything. We have 2 cops played by Christopher Maloney and Jeremy Piven. And Maloney kind of, falls under Ava Lord's spell, and that's kind of its own thing, which seemed really misplaced. Which is why I'm about to mention that I love Maloney and Piven in general. And they're really funny here. But at the same time, their characters are pretty pointless. Because it happens right in the middle of the Dwight story. It kind of takes it in a different direction for like 5 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I know it's to show, you know, what she's capable of and what she can make people do, but it just kind of added to the all over the place thing. I really wish we had gotten more into the Leota Juno Temple story, because that seemed like it was going to be something, and then they just left it there. Especially since they went through trouble of casting Ray Liotta, who I didn't know was in it till like 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting outside the theater, and I saw the poster, and I saw his name on it. I was like, whoa, I had no idea he was in this. This is awesome. But yeah, he's there for like 1 minute. I mean, if I were Ray Liotta and Robert Rodriguez called me up and said, hey, can you come on the set and be in Sin City 2? The only thing you have to do is weirdly fuck Juno Temple. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Indeed.
But her character disappears too. Are we supposed to assume she's in line with like Rosario Dawson's crew, or that's where I thought they were going with that? But then she never. I thought she was going to be in the Dwight story because of that, but she just walked into the abyss and never came back.
She set up her death, and then everything goes down, and then she disappears, and maybe she'll return in the third one.
They're only there to show us what Dwight does. Basically, that's it. And we have this character that is Stacy Keach, who looks like some kind of deformed Dick Tracy crime boss. They build him up like he's gonna be something, and then he never comes back. He seems like one of those characters where it might be like, in the event that there's a third one, that was kind of a planted seed to say that this character will be back and probably important. So
it's possible.
I'm guessing
he looks important.
And we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt is. He's good. I guess some people were worried that he would have trouble fitting in with the world. I thought he did it rather effortlessly. He has that, you know, smarmy but charming coolness about him that kind of fit in with this world and the character he was playing. And his story also leads to a brief appearance from Christopher Lloyd.
Yes.
Who I kind of wish they didn't put in the opening credits, because it would have been interesting as just a random ass cameo that was thrown in there, like, spoiler, Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Because when, what was that? Was that the Dwight story? He went into the diner and she had her back turned. And I was like, I'll bet that's somebody. But who's going to turn around? The Machete Kills connection. So
Alexa Vega's also in this too.
Yeah.
So there's another Machete Kills connection.
I've seen some Spy Kids.
Big Spy Kids connection.
I've seen some complaints that the movie's repetitive. I can kind of see that too.
Yeah.
Especially the last, when we're getting close to the end, and it's Nancy telling her story about, oh, I'm so gonna kill Rourke. I'm gonna kill him. And we keep seeing her prepare in various ways, and then for no reason at all, as if we forgot, because they don't do this at all with anything else from the first movie. We get the entire recap of the Yellow Bastard story for some reason. It's like they didn't know. It's like they had time to put stuff in there and they didn't know what, so they felt we needed reminded of that whole story. And it's really funny that at the beginning of the first movie, Yellow Bastard is Nick Stahl looking like himself, but every picture of his character that Stacy Keach has in his office is of Yellow Bastard, and not him looking like Nick Stahl. That might supposed to be intentional to be funny. I don't know. But yeah, and that felt a little odd, but then again, it kept reminding me, the Yellow Bastard segment at the end of Sin City felt like a great climax. Like, it was a really great place for the movie to end. The Nancy versus Rourke storyline didn't really feel like a climax. It kind of felt like the movie just abruptly ended.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, there was no... That's why I said there was no cohesion. Like, just with the first one was brilliant with that. You had the bookend, and then you had the Marv story, which was a great beginning and kind of pulled us into the world with Marv's narration. And then you had the middle story with Dwight with all the action and the crime stuff. And then the climax where Rourke Jr. comes back. All of these stories either felt like they'd be beginning stories or middle stories. There was really... None of these could have really worked as like a climax. Except, I kind of thought the climax was going to be at Ava Lord's mansion. But I think that would have been their best bet for a climax. But They went with the Alba story instead, which I thought was a little misplaced.
Rourke has set up the entire movie that he's the one that's going to go down at the end, and that's what you wait for the whole time.
I haven't mentioned this yet, but it is worth noting that Powers Booth is awesome.
Yeah, he is. Oh my god, yeah, he is.
Really, really evil and slimy.
One of the best heel performances of the year so far.
And while we're also on the subject of Yellow Bastard, I'd like to mention that this one uses a lot more color than the other movie did.
Mm.
And I actually liked that, because it really... They put it in just the right places where it really enhanced the scenes really well. Like when there's lights and shit.
Marcy's hair pops as red, and
we see the twins played by Jamie King, and one of them's in color and one of them isn't. Yeah, I kind of like the fact that it did look a little more lively than the first movie in that sense, because the first movie is almost entirely black and white.
Yeah,
with just the occasions of Red Blood and Yellow Bastard and a few other things. See, I like the way they blended that a little more. So overall, what I'm trying to say is, I think it could have been put together a little more smoothly, but it's still worth seeing.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's still, like I said, if you were to watch it, like I haven't seen the first one in years, but. If I were to have watched them back to back, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much.
Maybe not.
But it's still, like a worthy companion piece. And I'm sure, like, if we have a third one that's able to tie everything together, that might help a lot.
I love the way the violence is done in these movies. I really do. I love the film noir dialogue, and I love the way that everything is done in black and white. It really does look like a comic book, and you don't see that very often in movies. And that's what Sin City did so well.
And the Spirit ruined.
Yeah, extremely ruined.
You see, yeah, Frank Miller. Don't do that without Rodriguez next time. Like this time, thank you.
It literally says Frank Miller's Sin City when we put in the movie.
I've seen Frank Miller die twice. Marv kills him in the first Sin City, and Colin Farrell kills him in Daredevil. It's because Marv and Bullseye saw early cuts of the Spirit, is why that happened.
This is why Stan Lee doesn't die in movies. He's just cameos. He doesn't actually die in movies.
Okay. Our second movie is When the Game Stands Tall. You might have seen this movie before, if you've seen, like, Remember the Titans, or Invincible, or We Are Marshall, or...
Any inspirational football movie.
Friday Night Lights. And pretty much all aspects from those movies are in here. So, as I'm sure you probably just saw from the trailer, if I had to guess, just cliche territory everywhere. Let me be a little more specific, though. The movie starts, and we immediately hear that stock Rudy score.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, without even having to hear it. And we meet, obviously the very first scene is Jim Caviezel giving a speech to the team. And now, here's where we just start off with it immediately. We meet this team, kind of. This team basically consists of, first off, they start with, they listen to Jim Caviezel's speeches, and then they each stand up and they say their own inspirational thing, and they have their own sob stories, like the, we're not just a team, we're a family stuff, and that guy that stood up and basically said, my grandpa has cancer, and our wins are the only thing keeping him alive. It wasn't quite that extreme, but that's basically what he was saying.
That's pretty much what he was saying.
And all they really do is sit around in diners, wearing their varsity jackets, and call each other bro.
Yeah.
That's basically all they do. And we have two players that we really focus on. Technically three, but quickly it's only two.
Yeah.
We have Caviezel's son, the coach's son. I could probably end this right now, and you know every direction they take that character.
Yep.
And we have the kid from the Hunger Games as Clancy Brown's son. Clancy Brown plays the guy that's the really, Tim McGraw on Friday Night Lights, as one example. The dad that pushes the athlete's son too hard, that character. That kid from the Hunger Games is the athlete that's pushed too hard by his dad. because he's on the verge of breaking a record.
His record.
Yeah. So, anyway, why don't I start with the coach's son? Now, as you can probably guess, we also have the mom. We have Laura Dern, because this is, I guess, all she does now, plays the concerned mom. We just had The Fault in Our Stars a couple of months ago. But anyway, Oscar-nominated actress at her finest. But regardless, she's basically playing the encouraging wife. Yeah. She's playing Ed Harris's wife in Radio. She's playing Greg Kinnear's wife in Invincible. Did Denzel have a wife in Remember the Titans? Probably.
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
You know those lines, you care more about the team than your own family, and you're never around. And the kid says, this is an exact quote. Let me see if I can find it again. When I needed a father, all I got was a coach. And now that I need a coach, all I've got is a lame dad.
Who wrote this script?
Who knows? So, that's basically what it is. And this movie cares so much about the depth of its characters that we have to love so much. I'm not kidding. Every single time a black person is either on screen or is about to be on screen, the soundtrack plays a rap song. And we see Jim Caviezel driving around, and there's a rap song playing. Not in his car, on the movie soundtrack. And I was like, I'll bet he's gone to a black neighborhood to talk to one of the players. He was still, like, on the main road, and this rap song started. But sure enough, he goes to the door, and it's a shitty neighborhood, and a little black kid answers. And wouldn't you believe it, we have to have every possible cliche in here, right? I was like, gee, I wonder what this little black kid's name is. Black kid answers the door, and he's like, Coach Lattiser was his name. And Coach Lattiser responds, hey, Jamal!
Yeah.
Oh. But anyway, and then they do that whole thing. It's the black player that gets caught up in shootings and illegal parties and has to take care of the kid because his mom's poor. This is an inspiring true story, by the way. It says that right under the title. So, at least they didn't do that Drew movie with Kurt Russell where they made Inspired by a True Story the title. At least they didn't do that. But anyway, now, the story here is the team is totally undefeated. They've played 151 games without losing. And they're like big celebrities because of it. Well, something happens. A bunch of bad things happen all at once. The most convenient shooting in high school football history just happens to fall in when Coach Lattiser is smoking a cigarette. Mind you, this is the first time we see him smoking a cigarette. But the only reason is because this is the most important cigarette of his life. Because this one cigarette brings him to an immediate heart attack. And I've got to say, they did this scene all wrong because I kind of thought that heart attack scene was a little funny. Because he just kind of slips into bed with his wife and she's like, okay, now don't snore. And he starts to kind of do a snoring sound. And she's like, that's not funny. I was like, huh, he's pretending to sleep. But no, this fake snore is actually him having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then, on top of the shooting and on top of the heart, he survives, obviously. But regardless, on top of the shooting and on top of the heart attack, they lose. They finally lose. And it's horrible. It's practically like a family member has passed on. The whole town practically turns against them. Everybody's all, what happened? And they get fucking, news reporters and paparazzi and shit.
Yeah.
They're a high school football team, but it doesn't matter. Inspiring true story.
I didn't see ESPN there once.
I just wanted to go through and put that on all the scenes that happened. Like, the kid getting shot and laying on the ground, and that harrowing scene where his family shows up and sees him and they start to freak out. It's like an inspiring true story. And Caviezel having his hilarious heart attack. This is an inspiring true story. Making sure to play rap every time black people are around. Inspiring. So, anyway, it's no wonder to me that Jim Caviezel's character had a heart attack. Because you will notice, his family kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because he's got Laura Dern, the supportive wife, and he's got his son, the football star. But basically all his family does is jerk him around. Because all they do, it's like that line from earlier. He does everything he can to be the best coach that he can be. And then he has a heart attack. The doctor tells him, I don't know exactly what coaches do that strains them this much, but he has a heart attack, and the coach tells him that he can't go to another game for the rest of the summer. I don't know, but anyway, that's what the doctor tells him. The doctor basically tells him, if you go to another game, you're probably just going to drop dead. That's just it. There's no way around it. And what does the son do? The son gets pissed off, runs out of the room screaming, "You were supposed to help me practice, Dad!"
He turns into the coach from Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, God, Ed Lauder. You're lucky.
He can still coach, right?
In uniform, goddammit. If only.
Yes.
I think he was spoofing John Boyd in Varsity Blues.
There's a lot of Varsity Blues in this movie.
I didn't really get that.
I did, especially with the main character.
Now, here's the thing. His son wants nothing more than for him to stop coaching and be a dad. And then suddenly he has a heart attack, and now he's saying, "Fuck my dad, I want to coach." And then here's Laura Dern saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay, you don't have to, it's nice that you're not coaching anymore. Because you can be with the family now.
You don't have to rush back anytime soon."
But then, miraculously, his heart just cures itself. And they're like, "We've never seen this before. Feel free to go back to the field." Just like that. And now his wife is saying, "Oh, well, that's great about your heart and everything, but I still wish you wouldn't coach." This guy
Priorities.
This guy can't do anything right. It's no wonder he had a fucking heart attack. It wasn't that cigarette. It was these fucking people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, God. Well, now I want to talk about the veterans. Let's talk more about the development of this team as human beings and fully developed characters. So here's what we do. We have a scene where they need to bond and they need to learn shit. So what they do is they put the football team on a bus, and this bus takes them to this place where it's amputee veterans in a hospital trying to get back to the way things were. And this is supposed to teach them how to live? I don't know. But it works because there's a payoff. It pays off in the span of 2 hours. That's like time in the movie, not, real time. So they're getting on the bus and they're going to this veteran's place. And here's this kid just sitting here minding his own business. And this other kid walks up to him and just stares at him. And the kid's like, "Yeah, you can sit here." And the kid just keeps staring at him. He's like, "Oh, this means you want me to get up and leave." I don't know what the...
Seats taken.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. Okay, because he just gives in. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'm a doormat. I'll just get up and you can have my whole seat here that you need for some reason."
Yeah.
And then they go to the veterans and they see all the amputees and they help them out. They get them. There's comedy here for some reason. Like,
yeah.
"Oh no, the guy got covered in piss. Ew, veterans are gross." And then there's the guy that's running with the leg, the mechanical leg, and the kid's staring at him. He's like, "Hey, you want to stare at me? Why don't you get on one of these and race me?" Even though we're on fucking treadmills. But it's who gets tired first, I guess. And, oh, but you know what? the high school athlete got tired before the amputee veteran did. Man, what a great lesson he got taught. Apparently this works because the big payoff is it's time to leave and they're getting back on the bus. And the kid's sitting basically the same seat. The same kid walks up and he's like, oh, I'm going to be a doorman again. You can have my seat. Nah, man. I'm going to sit beside you now. Because I got covered in piss and saw amputees. That has made me want to share my seat on the bus with you. And that's the extent of that.
That's it. There's nothing else to it.
This movie's 2 hours long. That could have been a good 15 minutes just out of the movie to give it kind of a bit more of a pace. But that scene had to be in there. That guy sharing his seat on the bus had to be in there so badly that we had to have a scene where they went and visited amputee veterans.
I'm not exactly sure the placement of it in the movie either.
You know why? Because amputated veterans are inspirational. That's why. They will inspire you to share your seat on the bus and to stop being a dick for no reason. Okay. As long as you get a veteran's piss on you, then you'll be a good person.
We still don't know who shot the guy either, because it's kind of shrouded in darkness when it happens.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I thought that was actually going to pay off later on, but no, it kind of just disappeared.
And the thing about it is, it gets really, really tedious because it felt like every single... If you were to take a look at this script, almost every scene and every piece of dialogue is compromised of speeches.
Yeah.
Every single scene is somebody giving a speech, whether it be to one person or a big group of people. Every single scene is somebody going off on some big inspirational monologue. For 2 hours, every scene. And I don't know. Now, having said that, after all that, I can't bring myself to say that it's like a bad movie. It's good for a laugh, and it is so insanely cheesy and cliched, but it's not like... Its heart's in the right place, and you know what it's trying to say. And it's not too offensive. It's just, like I said, it's just really, really cheesy and cliche, and probably really funny in times it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I can't bring myself to just say this movie's bad. Because it's not like that, you know. I wasn't angry at it or anything. And it wasn't... The length wasn't really that bad. The main problem was, this movie was making us late for Sin City.
Yeah. And
I was more worried about getting to Sin City on time. But if that wasn't in my head, then I don't think the length would have bothered me, really. So, yeah. If this is, like, your thing, like, if you want to see every single inspirational sports movie that's ever been made... this is pretty much one of those. Literally the only thing it's missing is the Disney logo.
Hey now.
Because it goes right into those. Those movies are better, obviously.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, you know, because, like, Caviezel, like, I was really, like, you know, straining to say, well, you know, he's really rising here, you know. It's not that Caviezel's bad. He's not bad at all. But I would think an actor of his caliber would be able to at least rise above the cliches.
Yeah.
Like when he's giving the speeches, make you say, you know, well, at least he's, you know, this is a good performance. But his performance doesn't rise above, like, the cliches. You can't get past the fact that he's speaking in fucking speeches every time he opens his mouth. But yeah, if this is your thing, then you'll probably like it just fine. There were some people in there that, like, practically wanted to cheer and all that, so...
There are people I know that will when they get a packed theater.
So, you know, I can't say that it's bad. In all fairness, I can't. I was one extremist that I couldn't live with myself. I could totally live with myself saying this movie's bad, but I'm not going to say that.
It's going to be forgotten. I'll say that. I don't think it's got enough going for it that it's not going to just be forgotten.
Our next movie is If I Stay. I wasn't really sure what this was going in, but we just saw it 45 minutes or so ago. What it is Chloe Moretz is a precocious teenage girl. Go figure. Inspired casting. So, she's basically in love with classical music and playing the cello. In the first minute of the movie, she refers to Beethoven as my pal Ludwig. She's that kind of person. But the problem is she's an outcast in the family. Because her family is obsessed with rock.
Yep.
Her dad was the drummer in a rock band. Her mom was like the groupie. They don't say groupie, but I'm sure she was.
Yeah. She was a Band-Aid.
And the little brother likes Iggy Pop.
Yes.
So, he's actually sitting in the backseat screaming, Iggy Pop, Iggy Pop.
In quotes, Alice Cooper.
It's like, here, son, here's a copy of Train Spotting. If you like Iggy Pop that much. So, what was that? I never want to see a baby again.
And his dad character would do that, too, because he seemed like that cool type of dad that would.
His dad was Joshua Leonard from Blair Witch. Playing Aaron Paul. He was also in Hump Day. But anyway, but not only is she an outcast from her family because of this, she lives in an alternate universe that is not in line with this world, where she's not just an outcast from her family for not knowing much about rock and for loving classical music. Every single person in her world loves rock and seems to not even know what classical is, just to make her seem like more of an outcast. And sure enough, she falls for Dreamy Whipping My Hair, and he is also in a rock band. What a coincidence. And she seems to be the only person in the world that even knows the existence of classical music. There's a scene where she's in school and they try to get a laugh out of it where they say, or no, she's at like one of his after concert party things. And this girl is like, so what music do you listen to? And she's like, mostly classical. And the girl just obliviously says, oh, I love classic rock. They do that for a laugh, but I mean, I'm actually convinced that this movie takes place in a world where nobody knows what classical music is. Because the whole point is that she's an outcast. They want to drive that in so much. Well, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with anything because the real plot of the movie is, we keep getting cuts of this, her setup, and them as a family driving on a snowy road. They're driving through a postcard. And the kids in the backseat going, Iggy Pop, and the dad's going, and not, if you're gonna listen to, who did he want to listen to? Nothing after 1978, and we're all, and this is one of those times where even, if you don't know what's happening going in, this is one of those families that's sickeningly perfect, and everybody's happy, everybody's, everybody loves everybody, there's no problems whatsoever, they live in a dreamland. Mm-hmm. So to be totally honest, when they wreck, and the mom dies on impact, and she goes into a coma, and the little brother and the dad go into unknown conditions, and there's blood everywhere, and there's, death is floating right over them. The last thing I was surprised.
Yeah, same here.
So that's what the story is. It turns into Ghost / Just Like Heaven / many others. One more was coming to mind, and it's The Invisible.
Yep.
Not many people saw that movie, but
a lot of people are comparing it to The Invisible right now.
Okay. It's all of those. So she runs around the hospital having flashbacks. This is what it is. The whole movie is basically her and her stupid love story and her, I sent my application to Juilliard, and if I get in, we can't be together. You know, that old plot.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that plot.
At least it's Juilliard this time. That's a new one.
Well, maybe she'll run into Beetlejuice. She is, you know, in that limbo there. Why not?
Yeah.
Apparently that's where people from Juilliard go. So anyway, we basically have to tell her stupid story while her spirit runs around the hospital. Literally, just runs from place to place in the hospital every time she hears some news. So, that's all she had to do. So anyway, let's talk about the love story, I guess. I don't know this kid's name, but it doesn't matter because he's just, you know, he's just the one they
Flavor of the week.
throw into these movies, yeah, where they expect this movie's going to make him the big new heartthrob, but trouble is studios don't seem to realize that the new big heartthrob lasts a week now.
Yep.
So, Pattinson may be the last. The last withstanding one. So, the problem here is, once again, I feel like I've, you know, done this review so many times.
Yeah.
But I feel the need to talk about this. I'm actually bored reviewing this type of movie. Because I'm just saying the same shit again, but here it goes. This is one of those movies where the only way they want us to believe in this love story is because all the characters do is talk about how much in love they are. We don't really see it. We just have to take their fucking word for it.
Yeah.
Because here's how it works, okay? He walks in the room, and we know that he's the love interest immediately because, like I said, he flips his hair. He doesn't even flip his hair. It's like his hair is alive and flips to its own accord. And as he walks in, doing his dreamy thing, she talks about he's got the shoulder bag. Doesn't do the backpack thing because that's not for hipsters. She's talking about the fact that he's in a band, but he's the coolest guy in school, even though nobody knows his band.
Outside of this town.
Yes, he runs a hipster band. That's what he does. That's why he's cool and dreamy. So he's supposed to be the coolest dude in school. So the first thing he does is walk right up to the outcast's locker.
This sounds familiar.
And he's like, hey, you know, I'm like so into you, and I'm like so into classical music. And she's like, oh my god, that is like so deep. Voila!
Did someone bet
They're
you to turn
in
me into
love.
prom queen?
So, here's what happens now. It is at this point we were supposed to buy that they're in love.
Yeah.
This is the end of it. This does not build. This is it. And it goes from here. And they build it up as this gigantic, tragic thing. And this is when I knew they were really, really reaching for it. They go on their first date. And nothing really happens physically. Because she wants to go home because she's like, I don't fit in. I don't fit into his crowd. I can't fit into his crowd. I'm not even going to try because I just can't fit in. So the parents intervene and they're like, we want you to be cool. We want you to be like us. So let's invite him to something we're doing. They're having a little get-together on Sunday. Now, mind you, this is their first date. Nothing happened. See you on Sunday. Sunday comes. Oh my god, I can't believe you actually showed up. So they go and they're having dinner at this table with her family. And wouldn't you know it, she gets stung by a bee on the hand. Because it was convenient for this moment.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I learned this in Boy Scouts. And he sucks the stinger out of her hand. Nobody had tobacco, I guess. They're a whole bunch of hippies. Nobody had tobacco. So, right in front of her family, he takes her hand and just sucks on it. And this is supposed to be romantic. Him sucking on her hand. To the point that her whole family applauds. Because they're all fucking weird. So, he says, okay, they had the first date. They said, we're having this get-together Sunday. He showed up on Sunday. Later on, that day, he's talking about the sucking on the hand thing. And he says, you know, that's the farthest we've ever gotten since our first date. Your first date was 2 days ago, and you haven't seen her since!
Yeah.
What the... You know what? Never mind.
It's not even worth exploring right now. We've already done it too many times.
So that's what they do. They do the awkward teen romance thing. All they do is make out in montage. And then, this is when the real love kicks in. Are you ready?
Of course.
This is when this is when it's real. This is when you know that it's real. We have our first kiss. And do you know how you know the first kiss is the real first kiss? Because the kid, the guy, it's never the girl, it's always the guy, has to monologue. And he does this, this scene happens like 3 times. It's only necessary once, because it only exists so the first kiss can happen. But for the love of God, this scene happens like 3 times. Well, you see, I don't really have any parents. I don't remember the last time we had a family dinner. And my mom, she's like barely around anymore. And my dad, good luck tracking down my old man. Number 1, the dad's not around. Number 2, he's referred to as my old man. That's when you know the dad's never around. Or he's a piece of shit, one of the 2.
Or both.
Both, usually. Well, one usually goes hand in hand with the other.
Yes.
Boom! Oh my god, let's fuck! You're an orphan!
In an abandoned boathouse of all places, too.
Oh my god.
My band wants to fix this up and use it for rehearsal.
No. That was just the first kiss. The fucking in the boathouse thing, this is what that is. You know that scene in every movie? Every romance movie, Nicholas Sparks is all over this.
Yeah.
I think they did even a boathouse in Safe Haven, I think. I felt like a deleted scene from Safe Haven, that's what it was. I still remember that movie, and that was like 2 years ago.
Wow.
A year and a half ago. But, they walk in, and this scene is in every teenage romance movie ever. Mm-hmm. Come here, I want to show you something. Oh my gosh, what's this? I'm going to give you a backstory on this room so we can fuck in it. And yeah, that scene, and it's always the first time. I've never really, oh, it's okay. My dick will guide you.
Dawson Leary, he is not.
All this probably sounds familiar to you. You know what I mean? I feel like I've talked about this movie so many times. And this is what the whole movie is. We're only flashing every now and then to the ghost, just like Heaven and the invisible plot. That's only there so we can have this story, you know. Maybe what they could have done is not even do that. Maybe we could, I'm glad they didn't because it would have given this dick stain more screen time, but wouldn't it not have been slightly more logical to not even bother and instead have her in the coma and have him come in and have him be the one these are the flashbacks of? That would have made a little more sense instead of bringing the ghost storyline in, wouldn't it? Yeah, we have to have the scene where she's like, oh, when he, it's towards the end and he's just found out the news, so we see him running slow-mo to the hospital and she has to go, he came, he does love me, oh my god. And he does the thing where I couldn't help but, I was afraid of offending the crying woman that was across from me, but I seriously could not help myself from laughing when we got the slow-mo shot of him running into the hospital and looking around worried. It doesn't help that the kid kind of reminds me of Steve Coogan. Who's not that person I think of when I think of romantic lead, but...
Nope.
I think it was the hair.
Probably.
That's not to say that Steve Coogan is not capable of drama. I know for a fact that he is.
Exactly.
And it is an insult to compare this kid to him, but every time I looked at the kid, I was just like, he reminds me of a young Steve Coogan, and that's pretty funny. Anyway, so that's basically what this movie is trudging through the awkward teenage romance cliches. All of them. Mm-hmm. And now here's the thing. Let's talk more about the ghost stuff. There's probably some spoilery stuff here. You shouldn't care, but if you do,
this is a book, by the way, so...
This is probably... Oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. So this is your time to leave if you don't want it to be all spoilery and stuff. now that we got rid of those people, those poor people, God help them on their journey in life. If they were like, oh my God, I don't want if I stay spoiled. This is one of those movies where they want so badly for you to cry.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they will stop at nothing to get to you. And they do this in many, many, many ways. Let's start with who's the first one to go? The mom, because the mom dies instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. We don't know obviously she's dead. Because they bring her in and she's running next to her own body. She realizes what's going on, the out-of-body experience thing. But she spends most of the movie doing that mistake where she's trying to talk to people. Where she screams at somebody, like, can you hear me? And then she's like, oh, no, wait, they can't hear me. Because someone goes, hey, you, can you be oh, they can't hear me. And she does that every fucking time we cut to her. Every scene she's the ghost thing has a scene where she's screaming at somebody that she hopes will hear her, and then she remembers, oh, yeah, they can't.
To her credit, she actually does not walk through people like ghosts do. She actually, like, moves away like she's really trying to get around
And the thing is, and there's this whole thing where, like, a nurse, like, guides her or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the fuck that was, but it's not important. Like most of the movie. But anyway, the mom, okay? We know the mom is dead because they bring in Chloe Moretz, and she's like, oh my God, that's me. I'm in a coma. Oh shit, I'm in some weird thing here. And then they bring in the kid, and they're like, oh my God, it's the little brother. Oh shit. Oh no, at least he's alive. That's nice. And it's like, oh, there's the dad, and oh no. Oh shit, I hope that works out okay. They just don't mention the mom. And she doesn't seem worried about it. Because I was like, because here's the thing is they were talking about the kid and, they were like, oh, we might, hopefully things are going to be all right. And she's like, oh, that's good. And then they're like, the dad, we don't know. And she's like, oh, no. And then she kind of it looks like she has a look of revelation where she's like, oh, my God. And I was like, oh, she's having a revelation. She's going to say, where's mom? But no. I guess she was just emoting. Because she doesn't even mention the mom. The mom is not mentioned once until they say, oh yeah, by the way, she was DOA. And they just throw it away. But here's where the you will fucking cry shit starts. Because they do it with all of them.
Yeah.
It starts with her overhearing, oh, by the way, the mom was DOA. And she goes, and she drops to the floor on her knees. I don't know how ghosts, like, half faint, but okay. This one can. So she drops to her knees and she's like, no! And then we have footage of the mom doing happy things. Like the mom on Halloween and, the mom washing dishes and the mom playing with them outside when they were kids. What this is saying is, look how happy that now dead person is! And then we hear, oh no, the dad died on the table. Oh God! Drop to her knees. Footage of the dad being happy. Yeah, how do you feel that this happy person's now dead? Oh God, no. And then finally, the worst of it all. Oh my God, we see everybody crying and they're like, no. And we see what's her name with the short hair and she's all, oh my God, I'm here now. Guess where I'm not? Guess what that means? And she's like, no. And she has to run downstairs again. And there's the... the kid's dead. Somebody's dead when you see a made-up hospital bed.
Yeah.
Drop to her knees, flashes of the kid happy because he is now dead. They did it every time.
And she's not officially dead because she's not seeing them.
And now, here's the thing. Well, if they're in a coma too, they should be in that same limbo.
You'd think so, but I think since they're dead, they're not in the same place.
Well, they weren't dead right away. For a while, they were like, the kid's gonna be okay. Oh shit, brain hemorrhage.
How do they not run into each other?
Anyway, and then we have... But then here's the problem. While we're dealing with all this bullshit, knowing all this shit's happening, knowing all this shit's gonna happen, they still want us to care about the love story.
Yeah.
The love story that... When did the love happen? It just... 1 minute it's this, and then 1 minute, The world will end if they're not together, and we must weep for them.
He saw her playing the cello. It's actually in the dialogue.
And now here's the thing. Here's what happens. We have to go through... Okay. This movie should be reaching its emotional peak. Because, oh my god, the kid's dead. Oh my god, the dad's dead. The mother's been dead.
Wake up an orphan.
Yeah. The doctor actually says the line, yep, this kid's waking up an orphan.
Insensitive.
I'm going on my smoke break now. He cared about this scenario as much as I did.
Pretty much.
But no, after all of this happens, no, that's not their emotional peak. They want us to care about the breakup. Well, you see, I'm going to Juilliard. Why didn't you tell me you applied for Juilliard? I've known the whole time this has been your dream, but why didn't you tell me you actually did it? Fuck you! So... they break up. They do the scene where he actually does the pouty face. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to think this is... We're supposed to feel bad for him, too. He acts like a dick and does pouty face. And we're supposed to go, oh my god, they're breaking up. That's so sad. We're not supposed to say, whoa, let's dodge a bullet there.
We're not the target demographic here, AJ.
Yeah, I know. We did get the Ouija trailer. So,
I know. I put it on there.
So anyway, that is their main focus. And that's the thing. Not only do we have to deal with all this death, we have to deal with the fucking cliches in the relationship. And we know this from the get-go. Because I was like, oh, the ghost setup, that's an interesting way to do this movie. But then she started having the flashbacks, and I was like, oh, so this is what the movie is. The ghost thing's just a side thing. Oh, great. So while everybody is on their deathbed, we have to watch them be happy and fall in love and make out and fuck in the boathouse. And then fuck in her bedroom with her parents home. and
they don't care.
And her little brother. And then we're going to have to watch them break up. And we're going to have to watch her, oh my god, I don't know about Juilliard, I'm not still. Everybody feels so sorry for themselves in this movie.
Yeah. Because
everybody's like, man, you're great, you're going to get into Juilliard, you're great, you're going to get to Juilliard. I'm not going to get in, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I suck. I just fucking suck. I know everybody says I'm great, and I know Juilliard will accept me eventually, but I just can't help but think how much I fucking suck. Oh my god, I got in.
It's like the best performance ever.
Oh my god. So, Stacey Keach didn't. I don't think he wanted to be here.
Nope.
I mean, he did have his big emotional moment, but the first time I thought he was gonna have one was when they were talking about like people that were dying, and you know if she was like on the verge of death, and it was like it looked like he was about to have a big emotional moment, and then he just said, "Excuse me," and he walked out of the room and left. I was like, I think that was Stacey Keach talking, not the character.
Yeah.
But no, he got his big emotional moment. But yeah, this is one of those movies where, for the most part, when they're not sitting around doing the whole, oh my god, you love me because my parents are gone. He has like 3 monologues about his parents being gone. And every time she's like, oh my god, I feel so sorry for you. Let's fuck harder next time. That'll help. So, it's her and that other girl that's in a lot of movies I review, apparently. And they basically sit around in coffee shops talking about how clever they are and how much they know what love is, and it's like, oh my god, I feel like the earth moves, and I feel like I can't breathe, and it's like, oh my god, I'm like, this is so like what love is. I so didn't know this. Like they're talking about it like it's a fresh thing. And their dialogue is supposed to be really funny and clever, and oh, I wish these were my friends, is what the target demographic is probably supposed to say. But, and then, you know, speaking of things where they seem to be thinking they're talking and stuff that's original and fresh, and they have really philosophical outlooks that teenage girls will plaster on their Facebooks. And it'll, like, I think the mom's line was, she's like, oh my god, I am so breaking up with him, and it's like, oh my god, my life is over. This is what love was, and now love cannot exist because Mr. Flipping Hair will not love me because I go to Juilliard without telling him. He will not support me. The mom has a whole monologue about how, oh my god, this is true love, and life's a mess, but that's what's so beautiful about it. This movie is like worst of the year material stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this was a drag. And there's so many scenes where you have to watch fucking performances. If it's not her on the cello, on stage, performing in front of nobody, it's his fucking band. And it's like full performances too. Who fucking cares about his goddamn band? And that's the whole, her line, if I heard, maybe I misheard, but if I heard the line correctly, she actually says, oh my god, like, she's talking about how in love she is. In love she is with him. And how this is the true love. This is the truest love of all time. Whenever he's done performing and he gets off stage, I just want to, like, lick his face.
I wish you would have used that dialogue exactly said that way.
I thought that's what she said.
No, she said that, but I'm talking about your butchered Valley Girl accent you're using here. I wish you would have just turned around and just did that, too. It's like it's Clueless all over again.
This is what this movie is. And it's so painful.
If I want to watch concert performances, I want to hear John Cusack in someone's earpiece.
This is just... Oh my god. I'm glad it's over and I never have to see it again. That's nice.
We might have to talk about it in a couple months. Who knows?
The best... It's not like bottom 10 bad.
Okay.
It wouldn't make my list now, but it is like, you know... I've seen 168 movies this year. It would be towards the bottom, but probably not bottom 10. But really, really close. Oh, God. Okay. Now we're on to our indie movies. Our first one is Night Moves, which I believe was at TIFF last year. This is the newest movie from the director that did Meek's Cutoff, and I think she did Wendy and Lucy as well. You didn't see it, but I basically told you Meek's Cutoff is basically Oregon Trail, the motion picture.
I never played Oregon Trail like most people did.
So I was concerned because I didn't think much of Meek's Cutoff. Bruce Greenwood is fantastic in it, but apart from that, it is one of the dullest movie experiences you will ever have in your entire life. Valium on celluloid. If you can even call it that anymore in the digital age, but you know what I mean. But I was interested because of the cast and the story. We have three extreme environmentalists played by Jesse Eisenberg, Dakota Fanning, and Peter Sarsgaard. And there's a huge mystery around them. We don't know how they know each other or how they managed to get together. But the three of these people, who basically seem like strangers, practically, when we meet, they know each other, but they don't really seem to know each other. But they all three have a plan together to blow up a dam, to put it simply. And the movie is kind of in two parts. The first half is kind of the setup to it and how they're gonna do this, and the question of if they can pull it off. And the second half, this isn't really that spoilery because it's basically the setup. Once they do pull off blowing up the dam, what happens and the possible consequences, etc. Because once that happens, it doesn't quite go the way they expected it to, and it gets a little more out of their control than they were anticipating. And the characters are, well, most of the characters are very interesting to watch because they all just have a general mystery around them because we don't really get to know them. But we have Eisenberg's character who's not totally silent, but he has very little dialogue. His character's mostly silent, but with Eisenberg's presence and what he's able to do here, like, you can tell, just by looking at him, you can tell he's the character that kind of has a dark side, but we don't really know what he's capable of, because he's so more or less emotionless through most of the movie, but not in, like, you know, a bland way, in like that's just what the character is, and Eisenberg somehow Eisenberg's a really great actor, so
yes,
it's not surprising he found it, but he managed to find the perfect place to make this character just... You feel like you know everything and nothing about him at the same time just by watching him do nothing. It's hard to explain, but if you see the performance, you would know what I was talking about. the Dakota Fanning character is, she's one of those women that's kind of, the only thing we really know about her is she lives in this really serene environment and with like, you know, a bathhouse for older women. I don't know if she lives there or if that's where she like, you know, hangs out or works or what, but that's where we always see her. That's where she's like taken to and picked up and all that. But her character is kind of, I thought her character was a little grating. I don't know if she's supposed to be or not, but she's basically the one that's kind of funding this. And her character has that, like, that constant knowing and sarcastic delivery of her lines. She calls people dude. She's that character. She's not blonde, she's got dark hair now. But once again, we don't really know much about her either. Except that she's kind of she's the one that seems least aware of the fact that there could be extreme consequences to this. And they have to kind of constantly be cluing her in of what she should do and what she shouldn't do and what could get them caught and what will keep them away from that. Peter Sarsgaard is this former Marine which is funny because of Jarhead, who is basically kind of trying to take charge of the whole thing, and basically is kind of like, I guess we're supposed to assume this was probably his idea, if I had to guess. He seems like the kind of character that would say, you know, we should blow up a dam of all things. But he shrouds himself in so much mystery intentionally. Like, the only way we know their names is he gives them fake IDs. And we know his name, his real name supposedly is Harmon. And some dude even walks up to him when they're getting ready to do this and says, like, you know, hey Harmon, I recognize you. But, even then, we don't really know if he's, like, anything he says he is at all. This could be, like, his 5th fake ID for all we know. And just is kind of a guy that just kind of drifts in and out of trouble. Or not trouble, since he apparently hasn't been caught yet. And obviously, from being a former Marine, clearly has, like, maybe possibly a screw loose or two.
Most likely.
And I really like the fact that we don't get too much in... I mean, that could be... In any other movie, that may have been a criticism, but the way this movie does it, it actually adds to the atmosphere that we know practically nothing about them, and we never really do. We're just kind of watching what they do and how they go about... We do kind of get to know them through the actions that they make and their decisions. That's basically the best we get as far as their development. But there's something that makes the movie really engrossing, that kind of always having that mystery around it. And there's one thing where they could have done something kind of cliche that could have given it a little more character development, where at the start of it, Eisenberg and Fanning's characters are the ones that are kind of together on this, and they kind of fall in with Sarsgaard. But then there's a scene where Eisenberg's character overhears them banging. And for a brief moment, he kind of has, like while he's hearing it, and then his next scene with Sarsgaard, you can kind of see, like, a possible resentment there towards Sarsgaard. And this could have blown up into, like, a cliche, weird love triangle thing. And that could have been, like, its own thing. But after that kind of subtle resentment we see when he talks to Sarsgaard shortly afterwards, that never comes back. So, well, if you, without giving anything away, if you decipher the movie, maybe, possibly, possibly. It's hard to recommend a movie like this because as much as I do like it, it's one of those movies where you can't really have, like, a specific opinion on it immediately. It's kind of one of those ones where you just kind of have to watch it and then let your mind kind of do with it what it does in your brain, and then maybe a few hours later or the next day you'll know what you felt about it. Because the whole time watching the movie, I couldn't figure out how I felt about it. I had to write these little notes here, like, this morning. Because wow. because I watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
So, because while you're watching it, it's kind of hard to get a grasp on exactly how you feel about what you're seeing, but once you let it, it's one of those movies where once you let it simmer, you can really get a good grasp on how you feel about it. Whether it be positive or negative, it really just depends on you, I guess. There were some scenes where she kind of brings in the Meek's cutoff bullshit, where it's like, I'm just going to set the camera here and not do anything, and just let realism take over. It doesn't do that a lot, though. Like, that's practically what Meek's cutoff is, entirely. It doesn't do it enough to be, like, angering or anything. It's not like Uncle Boomy shots or anything. But no, for the most part, as far as realism is concerned, it does have, like, a real atmosphere, and the suspenseful scenes, like, when they're there, they really, really hit. Like, there are a couple of scenes where it's something somewhat simple, but it's really, really enticing because you still, are on edge about what may happen or what may not happen. So yeah. Now that I've had time to think about it, I do like it, which kind of surprises me. But I think the cast really helps. And just that, genuine suspenseful atmosphere. It almost seems suspenseful without effort, which is really nice. So yeah, it might not sound like the kind of movie that would have suspense in it. But yeah, those scenes are definitely in there, and they really do work. And I probably like this better than, I'm pretty sure she did Wendy and Lucy. I'm not totally positive on that, but in the event that she did, I can say I like this better than Wendy and Lucy, and definitely Meek's Cutoff. The next one is the one I love. Because we can't do indie movies without talking about Mark Duplass.
Nope.
Now I'm going to mention this real quick. This is a movie that is built up as something it may or may not be. If you go to IMDb, you see that the movie stars Mark Duplass and Elizabeth Moss, and they play a married couple that are having troubles, and Ted Danson plays their therapist.
Sounds awesome.
And Ted Danson says, well, there's this resort that is known for curing couples. I can send you there. It's never failed. So I was like, Hope Springs? This is interesting. Indie Hope Springs? So, if you go to IMDb and you read the synopsis, it says basically that. And then it says, things are going normally until they're faced with a dilemma. And it doesn't tell you what the dilemma is. Now, I would need to mention the dilemma to go into this. But if you want to go into this totally blind, which is what I recommend, I would stop this now and go watch it. And, come back if you so desire, I guess. But if you want to, I would recommend going into this totally blind, because that's what I did, and that's not what I saw coming. Because also, if you go to IMDb, it says comedy, drama, and romance. There's kind of another genre in there they didn't, IMDb doesn't tell you. So yeah, if you want to go into this blind, I'm going to assume that you're gone now, and I'm going to talk about it. They go in, and it's a vacation house. And this vacation house has a guest house. So they go in, and it's a normal guest house when they're both in there. But when one is in there alone, the other's exact perfect doppelganger is in there with them. And it takes them a little while to figure this out. It takes like the first half hour for them to figure this out. And then once they do, they kind of decide, well, let's just do this and see what happens. So, Mark Duplass spends time with the fake Elizabeth Moss, and Elizabeth Moss spends time with the fake Mark Duplass, and whether this will heal or hurt them is hard to say, because they kind of have... The interesting thing is obviously the fakes are different in personality. Elizabeth Moss's changes are a little more subtle, so she probably had a little more to work with, but Duplass is just as good as her in the movie. Duplass is basically freaking out, over this, and his other version is very, calm and just wants to, lay back and doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Everything's cool. The Elizabeth Moss characters are they're different, but in a much more subtle way. And while one starts to fall in love with the fake other one, and then the other one hates the fake other one, and then there's a whole bunch of combating things here, and we have no idea where it's going to turn out, and it's very interesting to see where it takes it. Because this movie eventually basically turns into a creepy thriller. Not too extreme, but just, enough. When they get more and more... Obviously, the big question is, where did these fake versions come from? And how is this even happening? I guess I should probably warn you, they don't fully explain everything, but they do enough to satisfy you, while keeping a bit of mystery in it. And the ending is kind of predictable. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming. But, I still give them credit for going that route, because they could have gone a safer route. But, yeah, I highly recommend this, just because, and they keep doing different things. Like, you think the concept would wear out eventually, but they always find different things to kind of shake up the concept a little bit. And you're curious to see how they turn out. See, I would totally, like I said, I know it's too late now if you happen to still be here, but yeah, my biggest recommendation is to go into this blind. Because that's not what I was expecting from this. Like I said, I was expecting a slightly more dramatic version of Hope Springs. So, yes, doppelgangers are popular this year.
Yeah. Was it the fourth time?
Yes, after The Face of Love, Enemy, and...
The Double?
Oh, yes. Jesse Eisenberg, we just talked about it.
Yes.
Okay, our last movie is called The Calling, and it stars Susan Sarandon as... What I saw briefly was, critics are calling it a mixture of Fargo and Seven, which is a big thing to live up to.
Yeah, definitely.
I can totally see where that's coming from. When I first saw Sarandon in the police car with the hat, I was like, Sarandon is Marge Gunderson. It's not exactly that. It's more Seven than Fargo. But even then, it's more like the, it's not quite it's more like the smaller thrillers you've probably seen, like, back in the day, like, if you saw Untraceable with Diane Lane, it reminded me of that. Little pieces of it reminded me of The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal and Keenen Ivory Wayans. That's not a bad thing, though. I kind of like both of those movies. They're guilty pleasures, but I like them anyway. And the thing about it is Sarandon plays this really strung-out cop. The very first scene is her waking up on the floor. She's an alcoholic. She's the kind that, she'll get coffee and then she'll drink it, and then when no one's looking, she'll put alcohol in the coffee cup and pretend she's drinking coffee all day. She has some addictions to pills. The first murder in the movie is somebody she's known since her childhood, that her parents went to church with. And she goes upstairs to investigate the bedroom, and she sees a pill bottle there. And she steals them. And we learn later that she survived a suicide attempt. So she's basically Clarice Starling in a few years. And she's got, little quirks and gimmicks, like, her little secretary or whatever is in the other room, and there's a window between them. So she keeps baseballs and tennis balls in their own drawer in her desk. So when she needs the secretary, she can just pick up a ball and throw it at the window, and the person will come in. Those little character traits would kind of be annoying in any other movie that didn't work very well, but I really liked this character. I think I saw one critic say they'd like to see a franchise starring this character, and I'd probably watch that. She seems like one of those characters that would be in like the star of a book franchise or something. I don't think this is a book though, so I think it might be its own thing. I'm not positive on that. So, the main plot is there's this serial killer who is a doctor that calls himself Simon, who is going around and murdering people and distorting their faces. If I heard correctly, what exactly he does is they die with like horrified expressions on their face. But they say, you know, with rigor mortis and stuff like that, they kind of... Their faces wouldn't be like that when they died. He had to have done something. So they conclude that he basically goes in and kills them. And basically takes his hand and manually holds their face like that for like the hour they go through rigor mortis, so that when he pulls his hand away, their face is stuck like that. And that may or may not be a pattern or a clue to something bigger. And we have a decent cast list here for a movie that's kind of off the radar. Her partner is Gil Bellows, who you might know as the tough guy prisoner from Shawshank that they shot. And then we have Ellen Burstyn as her mom, who has some good scenes. Actually, I mean, obviously this type of movie will not use Ellen Burstyn to her fullest, but she still was given some good scenes. She has one really funny line where they're in the living room trying to hang out like mother and daughter, and she's going through all the crime scene photos, and Burstyn just sadly gets up and says, "Well, enjoy your corpses." Topher Grace is a new cop that's kind of just transferred in, and it's like he's really happy-go-lucky and ready to get started, but is soon quickly, when he sees the darkness of things, kind of, his happiness isn't all there by the end. And we have a helpful, informative priest played by Donald Sutherland, who has a couple of scenes. This movie held up for a while. Like, obviously it's got its cliches, like, the serial killer is religiously motivated, of course. We all know how unoriginal that is. And sometimes they kind of cheat. Like, they kind of was flowing pretty well there, and it had some nice original ideas, like the distorting faces, but then you have these things in there where it's like the writer just got lazy, where they have to start flying around to see these other bodies where this is happening. And Topher Grace just chimes in and says, "Well, I can do it. My mom gives me air miles for Christmas every year that I don't use." Wow, that's really fucking convenient right now.
Yeah.
Good thing you just moved here and just happen to have those and have never used them. There's one really quick scene at the very beginning where they suspect Topher Grace is the killer because he just got here. But that's, quote, we see the killer, like, there's no mystery. We see the killer through the whole movie. He's an actor I don't recognize, but, you know. That's another problem. I think with just his motivations in general and the kind of, you know, stone-faced way he's played, the villain's not very enticing. So this could have been a movie that really could have benefited from, if they're going to show the killer through the whole movie and not shroud him in mystery, they should have made him like a really, you know, bigger-than-life character, but he just kind of comes in and out of the movie and does his thing and talks in a low voice, and that's it. But there are, you know, the performances are good, and there's a lot of nice directorial touches, which I was surprised with a movie, you know, on what seemed to be on such a low budget. Normally low budget crime movies, you don't generally see, you know, nice little visual touches. It was doing fine. It was nothing great, but it was, you know, it was fine for a while, but then once it gets to the last half hour, it kind of starts to die off and gets less interesting, and goes to places it probably shouldn't, and avoids places it probably should be going. But that first hour or so, it was alright, you know. So, and the half hour isn't like, you know, the most dreadful cinema I've ever seen or anything like that. It's just, it didn't really kind of hold out an evenness with the decency that was the first hour or so. So that it's worth checking out for Sarandon alone. So there's that. So I think that's it here.
Alright, let's run them down one last time. Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but I do, so...
Yeah, it's good. When the Game Stands Tall.
If you're into that, go right ahead. I'm sure you'll love it.
If I Stay.
No, nobody should watch that, ever.
Night Moves.
Yeah.
The One I Love.
Yeah.
The Calling.
It's worth checking out, I guess. If there's, like, nothing else, you know.
Wow, recommendations for most of the movies on the video this week.
Yeah, but If I Stay is on here, so...
Yeah, I said most of the movies on the video. Next week actually is going to be set upon what we're doing tomorrow. Doing a little trip to Athens, doing 3 movies, Magic in the Moonlight, and A Most Wanted Man, and What If. All 3 of those are going to be on there. Plus, we're doing As Above, So Below, and The November Man.
And I'm probably going to go ahead and do Frank, too.
Yes, Frank will finally be on here, so... So, as always, stay tuned this weekend for more. And Saturday will be Ashley's Gaming with Ash segment. Sunday, brand new verses. We're going to talk about the outdoors. Since it's the end of summer, so it makes perfect sense to me. So, AJ, any parting words?